long weekend, which is super exciting. All right, so just gonna wait for a few more people to jump on here. And now it looks like possibly I'm frozen. So Julie's on here, Alfie's on here. Can you guys give me some hearts or some likes if you see me? I'm seeing that I'm a little bit frozen here. So I just want to make sure that we actually are on. So can we get some hearts and some likes, everybody, if you can see me and if you can hear me okay, so that I know everything's good. I'm not seeing any hearts or likes, but there is sometimes a delay. So I just want to make sure before we get going, because oh my gosh, we have an action-packed Friday evening of training. I am so looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this all week. I love my lives. I love coming on here and giving you guys some content and some stuff to make you more successful in your canine conditioning. So let's just double check here. Sorry, I'm just on. Here we go. Okay, Dana, you guys can hear me. I think we are just about good. Not frozen here, says Kim. Cindy says all good. Holly says I can see and hear you. Amazing, amazing. Okay, everybody, so without further ado, because I don't want to keep you on here for too long, but there's also a lot to go through. You're going to see me sort of flipping between, I've got so many screens here going. So if you see me sort of scrolling, I don't want to miss any of your questions. And if you have questions, I want you to put in the comments MQI. My question is. Okay, save the questions right now because we're just getting started. So I want you to sort of have some questions pertaining to what we're going through tonight. But if you have questions as we go through, my team is running the comments and checking the Facebook. But to make sure that we don't lose your question in there, I want you to put my question is MQI and then put your question in there so that we can easily sort of go through the thread and make sure that we're not missing anything because I don't want to miss anything from you guys. So for all of you that have jumped on here right now, I want you to tell me, where are you from? Where are you tuning in from? We have students and we have people in this group from all over the world, and I'd love to hear where everybody is from tuning in tonight. Now, some of the Canadians might be off on the long weekend doing their thing, but would love to hear where everybody is from, where you're coming in from. So basically the consensus, I put up some messages this week about this upcoming Facebook Live, talking about sort of training and scheduling, because this is a part of conditioning that I find a lot of people struggle with. Okay, so what I'm hearing from people is that there is not enough time to commit to conditioning training. So they are having a really hard time fitting conditioning into their weekly schedule. Let's be honest, we are all overextended. We have a lot going on between, our work and our sport training. Maybe we're caring for a loved one. Maybe we've got wee little ones at home, not puppies, children. There's a lot that we're sort of involved in. Plus you throw on work as well, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's a lot going on. So I think it's a very common problem that a lot of people have in terms of committing to a conditioning training program, and how do we sort of go about that? Okay. The other thing that I'm hearing from people is that they have multiple dogs. A lot of us don't just have one dog. I can't even remember the time when I had one dog at this point. Now I've got 4, but how do we give enough time to each dog without sacrificing hours and hours of time in a given week? This is a problem that a lot of people experience. And then they start feeling bad, like, oh no, Fido and Joe got a lot of time, but then like Keeper and Shade's got no time. So like, then you start feeling bad and you're like, you know what, I'm just not gonna do it at all, which is not the answer. The other thing is people are telling me that they're just not sure how to organize everything. They've got these exercises that they've either got through courses or that they've looked at online. And like, how do we put everything together? Because we got stuff from here and stuff from here and stuff from there. And how do we put this all together to actually develop a program for our dogs that's going to do what we want, which is improve, their strength or their body awareness, or their flexibility, or maybe you're looking for more power, right? So how do we really plan and organize, first off, our general program, but even just our training? How do we best go about this so that we set ourselves up for success? Because if something's really hard, we generally don't do it. And if we don't do it, we're not going to reap the benefits that we're looking for. So that's really important. There's also a lot of confusion out there between what is training and what is overload and actually conditioning our dogs. What are the differences between the two? A lot of people don't know the differences. So I really want to clarify that tonight so that we're all on the same page and we sort of know what we're doing. Are we doing a training session? Are we doing an overload session? And really, what is the difference between the two? Another big point is, how do I really get started in canine conditioning? Like, I've got the best of intentions, like sign me up, I'm ready to go, I want to do something, but I really don't know where to start or what to do or what equipment or how do I put this all together. There's a lot of confusion around that too. How many people, I just want you to comment me if any of those sort of 5 things that I talked about resonate with you in terms of there's not enough time to commit, you have multiple dogs and you're wondering how to put it all together, you're not sure how to organize everything. How do we put it all into some sort of document that makes sense so that we can have really good, successful, structured, thought out sessions? Okay. How many of you are confused about training and overloading? And how many of you are sitting there going like, how do I get started? So I'm seeing the me's starting to come in, right? Denise is saying me, Carolyn is saying me, Molly's saying me. There's lots. If you're experiencing this, I tell you, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that are in the exact same boat as you. So I don't want you to get discouraged. This is what tonight is going to do. It is going to bring some clarity to all of this. And again, these are questions that come in through my inbox, through my Facebook thread every single day. So again, I want to come on here to really maximize your success and to really clarify this stuff for you. So tonight we're going to go through the difference of training and overload. How do we set up a session? How should we do this? And how can I get the upper edge so that I don't feel like I'm spending all my time doing canine conditioning, that I'm not putting it off to the wayside, and that my dogs are actually getting the benefits that I'm really looking to seek out. There's also going to be, very exciting tonight, very exciting. There's going to be 2, not 1, but 2 offers that I'm going to be releasing tonight. So you are going to want to stick around because I want to make sure that we have something for everybody. And I was only going to release one thing, but then I thought, you know what? It's Friday. It's the long weekend. And conditioning is really important. And I want to make sure there was something for everybody, that the one offer wasn't something that, well, I don't feel like I'm there yet. What do I do? I've got a solution for you. So I want you to stick around because there's going to be some pretty exciting stuff coming once we're done this training. So for all of you that know me, hello, great to see you on here. For those that don't know me, I'm Carolyn. I'm a registered physiotherapist. I have a canine athlete practice in Erin, Ontario, where I treat dogs and see them and do baseline assessments and treat injuries. And then I have a pretty big online program now as well, where I have different sort of conditioning courses that I offer, as well as an elite coaching program that I work with people from all over the world in terms of building conditioning programs for them. I own 4 dogs. I got Quinn, I got 50, I got Shades, I got Keeper. They all range from 1 to 6. So it's a fairly young pack, and conditioning is absolutely pivotal to our sessions. We do this every single week. Obviously, they're all at very different levels, especially Keeper just coming up on now 15 months, which is crazy. Where did the time go? So everybody's sort of at different stages, but conditioning is a really big part of everything that they do. Jan's jumped on there. Oh, this is awesome. Jan's on here. Michelle's on here. I love that everybody's pouring in. This is amazing. So first off, really, like, who is conditioning for? Like, who should condition their dog? Who should go through the training? Who should actually do any of this? This is for all dogs, okay? Doesn't matter if you have a puppy, if you have a senior dog, if you have a canine athlete, that's maybe a weekend warrior, maybe they're competing internationally. Doesn't matter, okay? Conditioning is for all dogs, because if we strip aside all the sports, it is not just for sport dogs. Huge misconception about that. Let me debunk that right now. It is not just for our sport dogs, okay? Because arguably, some of the stuff the dogs do in the backyard mimic what they do in sports in terms of squirrel jumps over there, right? They explode, they sharp turn. That's some of the stuff we see in agility. So it's not necessarily just for the canine athletes, which is a big misconception out there, okay? And humans who participate in physical fitness, on average, live 10% longer than those who don't, who are not physically active. So that's the same in our dogs, right? If we could get an extra year with our dogs, sign me up. I would want that. I want like an extra 30 years, but I would certainly take an extra year, and I would certainly do everything in my power to try and get them to live as long as possible. That is super, super important to me. So again, even though you have all these different groups, from puppies to seniors to athletes to just active dogs, the goals are obviously going to be very different, as well as the approaches are going to be different. What I do with a young puppy is obviously not the same as what I do with a dog that's competing on the international circuit, nor is that the same sort of workout and goals that I'm going to have for my senior dog. Right? So across the different stages, things do get a little bit more specific, and they sort of change based on the goals of the dog, but also the life stage that they're at. However, even though we have all that, it's still appropriate for all dogs. So if you're on here and you're like, oh, this is probably geared towards canine athletes because, well, we're in the canine athlete pack group, that would make sense. It is not just for you guys, okay? So maybe you have an active sort of sport dog that you're working with, but you have a senior dog as well. That would be something that you're going to want to include as well for them, not just for our sport dogs. Now, as you know, I'm a very big advocate for planned and structured training programs. This is really important. When I was working in my human practice, that was something that was critical for my human patients in order to be successful with what we were doing, right? In terms of whatever goals that we had. The better organized you are, the more likely you are going to actually follow through and execute it, okay? Also, it's going to make you more efficient, because if we're scrambling around and we're just going into our canine gym with sort of no sort of thought or structure or planning, right? It's going to be a tad disorganized. We're going to pull from equipment that's just off to the side and hope for the best. We're going to do exercises that probably we're just really comfortable with, because that is the natural tendency of a lot of people. We just fall into that trap of doing the same exercises over and over and over again. And why is that? It's immediate gratification. We're good at them. Our dog's good at them. Makes us both feel awesome. But does that actually progress you towards your goals? Okay. We have long-term goals and we have short-term goals, right? Our long-term goals are, maybe we want to compete at a world event. Maybe we want to make sure our dog has more power. Maybe we want to make sure our dog has more body awareness and proprioception and balance, right? As much as we have those long-term goals, it is critical to be focusing on those short-term goals as well. Okay. And by focusing on those short-term goals, we end up being more successful towards our long-term goals, right? But we have to look at the process that we're getting there. How do we get to those long-term goals? It is not good enough to say, well, I want to be on a world team, right? I've got 2 dogs and I'm hoping the next couple of years are trying out for a world team. But if that's all I kept saying, and I actually never looked at the process of how I was going to get there and have some sort of organization, what are the chances that I'm going to get there? I may, but it's going to be by sheer luck, right? The more planned we are, the more organized we are, the more likely our goals are going to be met. And that's where that planning and organization becomes so important. Planning is really the map to your destination, right? The map to reach your destination. I don't know about you guys, but when you go on road trips, I'm going to guess that you have maps. Now, most people end up using Google Maps, which is fine, but you generally have a map to get you there. This is the same thing. In order to reach those long-term goals that we have to have a really clear idea of that map and how we're going to get there. And again, the better planned out it is, the more likely it's actually going to happen, which is pretty darn cool. I'm a big advocate for journaling. And creating some sort of plan, whether it's a journal, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet. Everybody does things a little bit differently. Some people love the computer. And it's funny because I'm still sort of old fashioned this way. I like printed things in front of me. I like boards that I can put up, whiteboards. And these are the things that I sort of like when I'm planning my sessions, because if it's on an Excel spreadsheet, I still have to start up my computer. Then I have to pull out the Excel spreadsheet. I'd rather have something physical that's sort of right there that I can sort of see as a reminder every single day. So it doesn't matter how you do this, but I want you to have something that you're going to keep track of some of this training that we're going to go through. I want to make sure that you have a way of keeping track of it, whether it's a journal, a book, just some papers, some Post-it notes. Maybe you have a whiteboard. People have gotten really, really creative with this stuff. Whiteboards are amazing. You just put them up on your walls and you can easily sort of erase and add and things like that. So that's another option. But we really want to make sure we're having some sort of structure to what we're doing. Bree says student agenda for each dog. Can't go wrong. Yeah, student agendas work great, Bree. That's fabulous. Candace says printed in colors. Yes, I love colors. I can't tell you how many Post-it notes I have and just different colors for different things. So you can really have a lot of fun with this. So I want you to think about that. After this call tonight, I want you to find something, a journal, an Excel spreadsheet, just find anything. And this is going to be the first step, okay, in terms of getting organized in your canine conditioning. Because we want to avoid mindless conditioning. We need to give that purpose and that structure, because that is what is going to get you to the goals that you want, okay? And it's going to speed up the whole process. The other thing too, big objection when people are like, oh, I just don't have the time. Imagine you were actually organized. Imagine you were organized and you had a plan. So instead of going, well, it's Friday, I'm gonna, look at some exercises and just grab some cookies and just go out. And then you're not really sure, and you're sort of fidgeting, and you're sort of going through exercises without really thinking. Imagine you had a plan that you just turned to, and you're like, these 3 exercises, and go. And then I'm going to do that. Imagine how much quicker you're going to be. It's going to save you tons of time. Tons. I can guarantee you this. It is going to make you way more efficient. So again, having that plan, having that structure is important. Pat says recipe cards. Yeah, that's another great idea. Recipe cards are fantastic. I love recipe cards. Carolyn Kaiser says written is better for me, old fashioned. Yeah, there's a lot of us in here that prefer sort of the paper approach, and I just find that it's sort of easier to sort of keep organized. So that's number 1. I want you to write this down. For those of you that are taking notes on this, number 1 is you're going to find a journal, something to write to keep you organized. Okay, that is step number 1, planning. And you can't go to step 2 until you've done step 1. Okay, that is the other key. Candace says, never say I don't have time. I always say I didn't take the time. Absolutely. That's a great quote. I like that. Okay, so let's get into, I wanted to talk about my traffic light training approach. This has never been released before. This is brand new. This is hot off the press. And I want to share with you guys, because this is going to help you be organized in your sessions and how you're going to organize your training sessions. Okay, so this is specific to training. We're not getting yet into conditioning. Okay, and when I think of training, it's learning a new exercise. It's proofing the exercise. So maybe we're working on form. We're trying different challenges, right? Maybe we're trying out different pieces of equipment. Okay. Training sessions are shorter in length. They can vary from sort of 5 to 10 minutes. Some of my best training sessions have been like 3 minutes long, right? You don't need a lot of time. That's another big misconception out there, that you need like half an hour to train your dogs. No, you do not need half an hour, right? You need 5 to 10 minutes, minimum 3 times a week. That could be potentially a total of 15 minutes. I guarantee that if I broke everybody's schedule down, there would be inefficiencies in that schedule that we could easily plug in 15 minutes in that week, right? Think of screen time. How much time do we, troll around on Facebook or TikTok? I don't know about you guys. This is a new obsession for me. TikTok, that is such a time waster. I really try to limit my time on this, because I get on there and then I'm scrolling through and oh my gosh, it's just, you go through one thing to the next thing. But again, that's some inefficient time unless I'm researching something. TikTok does have that. I've learned a lot of cool things from TikTok. However, I bet you if we broke down your schedule, there would be moments and pockets of inefficiencies that we could fix and we can improve, that we could throw in 3, 5, 10-minute sessions. I bet you we could. So I don't want you to walk away going, oh my gosh, oh, it's time for training. You don't, okay? Just start with 5 minutes, 3 times a week. That is 15 minutes. I'm sure somewhere you guys have this, okay? So that is number 1, that it doesn't take that much time. But let's actually go through. How many people on here want to see my traffic light train approach? Comment me and I will pull it up. I will share my screen and we will go through the best way that you can to organize your training sessions of learning a new skill, of proofing a new skill, or trying a bunch of different challenges on, okay? This isn't circuits. This isn't overload. This is purely training, okay? So let me know if you want to see this. Okay, people want to see this. Fabulous. Okay, let me pull this up here. Of course, why is it whenever I want to find something, I can't? Hold on here. Okay, we are going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see my screen here? Give me some thumbs up if you can see my screen. Thumbs up, some hearts, anything. Okay, I'm going to assume that everybody can see this right now so that we can go through this. All right, Dana says thumbs up. Yes, lots of likes, lots of hearts. Oh, beautiful, awesome. So welcome to Traffic Light Training, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm first going to go through what is traffic light training actually and how do we actually do this, okay? So there are 3 colors of the traffic light. There's red, there is yellow, there is green. So I want to break it down in terms of what's what. A red light exercise. This is an exercise that is completely brand new to your dog. They have never seen it before. They have never completed it. It is brand new to them and it is brand new to you. Now, if you have an exercise that you did back in 2016, I would probably say that that would fall under the red light category at this point because your dog hasn't seen it in eons and you haven't seen it in a long time. So if it's an old exercise that you haven't done in years or maybe even months, it would fall into the red light category. Okay, but this is an exercise that is really brand new for your dog. That's the red light. A yellow light exercise is an exercise that has been introduced to your dog and you're maybe working on the form of it or the posture or maybe the positioning on the equipment. Maybe you're still trying to find that perfect stack. And so you're fiddling around with different sort of training sessions to get their front feet balanced or their hind feet balanced. Maybe you're still working on perch work and they're really good turning clockwise, but not so good counterclockwise. Okay, so in this sort of color of light, you're really mastering sort of that exercise and really proofing it, not only on their form and their posture, but also on various challenges. Maybe they've got a really great stack on stable pieces of equipment, and now you're going to try to introduce unstable pieces of equipment. Okay, so you want to make sure you are trying several challenges for an exercise to move from sort of yellow light to green light, which brings us to our green light exercise. This green light exercise is one that is familiar to your dog. They can execute it and they have some various challenges under their belt. Now, I want you to keep in mind, there are so many different ways we can progress an exercise. So many, right? So it's not like I need you to master every single possible progression because, oh my gosh, you would be stuck in yellow light for a really, really long time. Okay. So if you've proofed the exercise and you've done it with a few challenges, 2 or 3 challenges, then what you're going to do is you're going to move that exercise over to the green light. Okay. Now, why have I decided to put it in sort of colors of lights? There's a few reasons. Number one is I want to make sure that we have a balanced training session. Okay, so in your training session, you are going to choose one exercise that's a red light. You're going to choose one that's a yellow light. You're going to choose one that is a green light. Balance. And the reason for this, if you have a whole bunch of red light exercises, I'm going to safely assume that you have fallen off the wagon. Okay, that at this point, conditioning isn't a priority. You have like 20 exercises that you've seen in a course or you've seen on YouTube, and you just haven't gotten around to doing them. Okay, so you're sort of stuck in here if we have a lot of red lights. If we're stuck in yellow lights, what's happened is you're probably being too nitpicky. You are proofing the crap out of the exercise, which, yes, that's great that you're trying all these challenges, but if you stay in this for too long, that's not necessarily good either. At some point, you have to spread your wings and you have to move down to green light. Okay. Now, if you only have green light exercises, and this star italics is where a lot of people are because they're just doing the same exercises over and over and over again. How many people, okay, have done this where you get comfortable with like those 4 or 5 exercises and you just sort of hang out there and you don't try anything different. You're not really proofing any challenges. You're just doing the same exercises on the same equipment over and over and over again. And then you're starting to realize, well, geez, I'm not really getting anywhere. I'm not seeing any of these crazy improvements that Carolyn talks about getting in conditioning. Well, because if we just work on the same stuff, our body never has to adapt. And then they're like, oh, well, we just sort of plateau and you don't really ever see any of those changes. So we want to make sure that there's a balance between your red light exercises, your yellow light exercises, as well as your green light exercises, because I don't want you to get stuck in one or the other. So really a third is what we're looking for, because we do want to constantly challenge our dog and try new things. We do want to make sure we're spending time proofing the challenges, again, working sort of on stable equipment first, then moving to unstable. And then we also want to make sure that we have some exercises that our dog's really good at. So by structuring your train session this way, okay, also from sort of a confidence and mentality standpoint, this is good for a lot of reasons, because maybe you start your session with a green light, feel good exercise. You get your confidence up, you get your dog's confidence up, like, yeah, we're working on something we rock at. This is awesome. Again, that's where a lot of people are stuck, right? You love that feeling. Dopamine hit. Oh my gosh, this feels so good. We're rocking canine conditioning, right? So that's the exercise that you can start with. Then you might move then to a yellow light exercise, something that you're proofing. You're adding a new challenge. You're going to change up the equipment today. You're going to see if you add a piece of unstable equipment on their front feet, can they still get that perfect stack? Okay, so we're looking for some challenges in there. Okay, and then in your session, you're going to try the red light exercise. And you're going to see, okay, I'm going to try something totally brand new with my dog. Let's see how this goes. Now, it doesn't always have to go green to yellow to red, because it's also going to depend on the personality of the dog, right? Maybe leaving a red light exercise to the end is going to be a little deflating for them. And to end on that note, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to actually start with the red light exercise and then work on a yellow light exercise and then finish off with something that's going to keep their confidence up really high. This is really going to depend on the dog that you have. So it's not a cookie cutter approach. There may be some people on this live that are watching this saying, you know what, my dog can't handle 3 exercises at a time. Okay, cool, no big deal. Just focus on one. So it's not cookie cutter approach, but it's a nice way to sort of structure your train sessions to try and get more balance. I'm really encouraging the balance, because what I'm seeing when I'm getting on discovery calls with people who want into my coaching program or to some of my programs, you know, there's not a balance in their session. So we have to find some way to bring this balance alive, so that we're making sure we're challenging our dog, we're trying new things, and we're not getting stuck in the rut of doing the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, that's not going to get you to the goals that you're looking for. So now that you sort of know how to structure a training session, how do we color code this? How do we do this? Right now, what I want you to do in the comments, okay, a little exercise here for a second. I want you to comment, where do you think you are primarily in your training sessions? Do you feel your red light? Do you feel your yellow light? Or do you feel your green light? Where do you feel your sort of comfort zone is? And if you're doing all 3 right now already, thumbs up, that's amazing, right? And then just comment all 3. So we got a bunch of people on here. I want to make sure that you're commenting. Are you red? Are you yellow? Are you green? Or are you all? Where are you on this? Bree says, does the red, yellow, green light apply to overload sessions and dog training sessions, Carolyn? Bree, stand by for that question. We are not there yet. That's a fabulous question. Traffic light training is only for training. It is not for overload sessions. This is strictly training, and we're going to get to that in a minute. Erica says she's in yellow. Denise says yellow. Cindy, yellow. Carolyn, mostly green. Okay, Pat says yellow. Pat says yellow. Julie, all 3 between red and yellow. Okay, so a lot of people are just putting down one traffic light. Okay, which means we probably could be doing a bit more balance. The other thing too is, for all of you that are stuck in yellow, are we working on too much? Are we trying to do too many different exercises so that we never get really good at any of them? We just sort of stay mediocre at these, but they never actually ever end up in green light, right? How focused and planned out are your sessions? And there's no timeline in terms of when an exercise should be learned. It's not like I say, okay, for the stand to down or sphinx down, you should learn that within 3 weeks. There are so many factors that go into that. So there's no normative values in terms of, well, this is how long an exercise should take. However, if things are always in the yellow light, I'm going to say that, are we dedicating enough time to actually completing those ones? Or are we just sort of jack of all trade and master of none, right? Because we need to get the exercises moved into green light, because when we do circuits or when we do overload sessions, you are only ever choosing green lights to go into that overload session. You are never going to choose a red light for an overload session or a circuit. You're never going to choose a yellow light. Okay, that is going to set you up to fail. And we don't want that, right? There's harmful failure and there's motivational failure. And by setting yourself up doing a circuit with red or yellow lights, that's harmful failure, because I know it's not going to go well for you, right? We need to make sure we're setting you up for success with green lights only for the overload. Dana says we're pretty new still, mostly yellow with a few times moving into green. Yeah, Dana, that's awesome. Michelle says it depends. Yeah, again, certain exercises can also fluctuate between red, yellow, and green, right? So say you have an exercise that you worked on, you did a bunch of challenges, you moved it to green light, and then, well, you let 8 months go. Well, then we're going back to red light. So you can work back and forth, right? You can get to green light and then all of a sudden be like, oh, you know what? Things are not really going well. Maybe I haven't really been true to my criteria. Maybe I've been letting things go. You know what? This is coming back down to yellow light. So it's not like once an exercise moves through the color that it stays there. It can fluctuate between them. So when you're structuring your training session, what I first want you to do is I want you to create This is terrible. It looks like a grade 3 wrote this, but you know what I mean. I want you to create a master, M for master, a master list of your exercises, okay? And I encourage everybody this weekend to take some time. It takes a little bit of time to get this sort of process worked out and actually get it mapped out and organized, but I can guarantee you that it's gonna make things so much more efficient for you. I've been trying the traffic light train approach with all my clients in my coaching program right now. Feedback been off the chart. They've loved it, absolutely loved it. They feel more organized. They feel like they have more time, and it's a lot easier for them to sort of go through and work through the exercises, or maybe see what they haven't worked on in a long time. Candace says, I will be honest, when I feel my frustration building, I need to stop on a fun activity. Yeah, absolutely. So not only do we have to protect our dog's confidence, but we also have to protect your confidence, because if your frustration goes through the roof, that's not going to be conducive either, right? So again, you can play around with this. It is not, you know, you don't have to just do this outline. It's just an outline to help everybody sort of just think about sort of higher structure and organization right now. Tara says, it is brilliant. Yes, awesome. Glad that you love it. Okay, so master list. What you're going to do is you are going to write all your exercises down. Actually, why didn't I do this over here? Hold on. Master list. Here we go. This still looks like a third grader wrote it. Sorry. Or that I've had a lot of wine, which is also not the case. So master list, I think you guys can all read this. Just work with me. Okay, so you're going to write out the name of each exercise. Okay, you're going to have this master list. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get 3 highlighters. Okay, now they don't have to be red, yellow, green. Make whatever colors you want. If purple is your color, which I love purple, should be a color in the traffic light as far as I'm concerned. But they don't have it, but that's okay. I still use it. Okay, so you could choose whatever colors you want. And if you're on an Excel spreadsheet, again, do the same thing. And what you're going to go through is you're going to highlight which ones are green. So maybe you get some green here, you get some green here. Then you're going to go and you're going to get your yellow. Okay, you're going to highlight your yellow ones. And then what you're going to do is you're going to highlight your red ones. What you should see when you have this list is there should be a third red, there should be a third yellow, and there should be a third green. This means that you are keeping things balanced. And that is really, really important. You're not getting stuck and falling off the wagon by only having red exercises. You're not just proofing the crap out of them all the time and just doing so many exercises that you never get good at any of them. And you're not just doing and staying in your comfort zone and just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, so this ensures that you have that balance in your session, because as you go through this list, you might be like, oh my gosh, it's all green. Carolyn's right. I need to try new things, or I need to proof and try some more challenges. Okay. And by the time the exercise is in green, they should be able to do 10 good reps. I don't even know why I'm trying to write, but oh boy, they should be able to do 10 reps of the exercise with about 2 or 3 different challenges. Okay. If your dog can only do 3 reps of an exercise with good form, you are still hanging out in yellow. You're still proofing that right now. Okay. But if they can do 10 reps, amazing, they're in green. If they can do 10 reps with only 1 challenge, so let's say you were working on finding balance, right? And they came in, they did 10 reps, but you could only do it on stable equipment. Well, I'm not sure that's a green light exercise, because we want to try a few different challenges. Maybe you want to try front feet unstable, hind feet stable. Maybe you want to try different pieces and sizes of equipment to see if that adds another challenge, right? So remember, if we use a large piece of equipment, that's easier for dogs to find their feet. Smaller pieces are a lot harder. So until you've attempted sort of 2 or 3 challenges in yellow, you're not going to bump that exercise to green. Okay, so we want to make sure you got 10 reps under 2 to 3 different challenges. That's what's going to be moved to green. Okay, that is how I structure training sessions with my dogs. And it makes it so much easier, because here's the other thing, guys. It doesn't matter which exercises you pair with which. That's another common question I get. Well, Carolyn, like, which one should go with which? And how should I work on front end strengthening? And how should I do this? Guess what, guys? Does not matter. Don't let that stress you, okay? This is a training session. We're not working to overload. We're not trying to tire out the dog. We're trying to teach them some stuff and prove some stuff. right? So it doesn't matter which exercises go together. What's important is that we're choosing a red light, a yellow light, and green light to really achieve that balance in our sessions. So step number 2. Step number 1 was making a plan, right? In terms of getting a journal, getting an Excel spreadsheet, doesn't matter. You got to find something. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is you are going to create a master list of all your exercises. And from there, you are going to color code them. Where are you at? This is going to give you lots of great information. Where are you at? Because here's the thing. You might think you're somewhere. You're like, oh no, I try new stuff all the time. And then you look at your master list and you're like, wow, I haven't tried something new since 2019, right? So it's going to give you some good insight into where are you at with your scheduling, where are you at with your sessions. And then from there, you can start to make some decisions about choosing a traffic light training approach so that you're more balanced and starting to either maybe challenge yourself a little bit more, get outside of that comfort zone, or maybe just get on the bandwagon of conditioning. There's another one, right? Remember, training sessions, 5 to 10 minutes, minimum 3 times a week. And anybody who challenged me on that time, I could break down your schedule. Let's hop on a call and let's break down your schedule, because I can guarantee you I can find 15 minutes, right? The other thing too is if you have multiple dogs, you might, Annalise says, did mine today, I have a lot of red. Oh no, but you've had a lot going on right now. So don't stress about that. Sometimes we fall off the wagon a little bit because life happens. Maybe a dog gets sick. Maybe a family member gets sick. Maybe there's a crazy project at work that's taking you away from conditioning. Okay. This sometimes happens, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You give your permission, give yourself permission to have a pass and say, you know what, I'm gonna do better next week, or I'm gonna do better maybe in 2 weeks. Maybe I need to take a 2-week break. That's okay. You can even take a 3-week break if you need to. I don't want really much more than 3 weeks of a break, because then we get sort of reversal in our training, which is not really what we want, okay? Reversal effect starts to happen around 3 to 4 weeks. So any of the gains that you've made start to go backwards, okay? Now, you can take a few weeks, absolutely, but we got to find strategies to sort of get you back in there, okay? So step number 2 is creating that master list to see where you are, and then know what you need to do to sort of fix that. Okay. In terms of, if you know you're all red, well, you're going to start finding some other exercises and have a more sort of balanced approach. Now, if you are brand new to conditioning, yeah, you might be just all in red to begin with. That's okay. You're just starting out, right? But as you go through, this again is really going to help sort of your structure. Back to multiple dogs, so I don't want to forget about that. I would make a list for each dog. Okay. So every dog in your household, I want you to make a list, because then you're going to see, okay, who maybe am I focusing on a little bit more, right? Once you color code each of the exercises for each of those dogs, then it also saves you time by saying, okay, hey, I'm going to quickly look at my list. I'm going to choose these 3 exercises this morning, and I'm going to go do that now. Right? So again, this is going to save you lots of time. And if you have 4 or 5 dogs, okay, and you're just really overwhelmed, just start with 2. Again, I want you to be successful. It's like if I was to start a running program tomorrow, which I'm not, but if I was going to, I wouldn't go out and run 10 kilometers. I'm going to start at like 1, because that will probably kill me. And then I'll slowly work up. So when you're setting these goals, you want to make sure that you're also setting realistic goals, right? So you're not saying, no, now that I got my list, I'm going to work out all 6 dogs. Start with 2, then go to 3, and slowly add, because it's really discouraging when you take on too much right off the bat. For example, January always comes around, New Year's resolution. I think 60%, 70% of people are like, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to get fit. And these people don't just say, you know what, I'm going to go a couple times a week, I'm going to ease myself in. Oh no, these guys go like gung ho. They're gone. They're like, I'm going to go 5 days a week. I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to do like an hour-and-a-half session every time. And they just go in and they crush it for 2 or 3 weeks. And you know what happens after that? Right downhill. Why? Because they put too much expectation and too much pressure on themselves to create a schedule that was not sustainable long term. This is not a fad, okay? This is not a fleeting moment in time. This is your dog's health, guys, okay? This is your health when it comes to exercise. This is pretty important stuff. Remember that stat I said at the beginning? We can live 10% longer if we work out. That's huge, right? That's huge. So this is not one of those things that I want just to be a fad, or I just took a course and then, well, I forgot about it and I moved on to my sport training. right? No, we want to make sure this is ingrained in you. So I want to make sure we are setting you up for success. And if you put unrealistic expectations and set up a schedule that nobody can handle off the bat, you are not going to be successful with this. And then when you're not successful and you're like, well, shit, I wanted 5 days this week and I only got 2. All right, well, next week I'm going to go for 6. And then you only get to 3 the next week. And then you say the following, no, we're going to do 5 or 6 again. We only get 1. Well, how discouraging does that get? That gets so discouraging. You're like, well, great. I can't stick to this. You know what? This is dumb. I don't want to do this. And off you go and you give up. And that's what happens when February rolls around. Most people end up, breaking that habit. They tried to start. First off, it's not a habit to begin with, but they set themselves up to fail. I don't want you guys to set yourself up for failure, right? Create those lists for each dog. But if you've only been doing 1 dog at a time, don't go from 1 dog to 5 dogs, right? Slowly layer this up. And it's the same with your foundation train, right? Where sort of our expectations of the dog are not reality of where their training level is at, right? So then we go in there with like, well, no, you should be able to do this. And they're like, well, my gosh, this is too much pressure and I can't really do this. Then you get frustrated, dog gets frustrated, you get frustrated, you leave the session and you're like, wow, this is so not fun. Don't want to do this anymore. Oftentimes when I see that, we have very unrealistic expectations. We haven't actually sat down and thought about this. This is going to give you a way to think about it, right? Because your expectations for a red light exercise are obviously different than what they would be for a green light exercise, right? So we have to be really mindful of that to set ourselves up for success. It's not just only in canine conditioning, setting our dogs up for success. That is super important, right? That's just dog training. Canine conditioning is dog training, right? But what's more important to me is, can I set you up for success? By setting you up for success, the chances of you engaging in this are only going to go higher and higher, and keeping consistent so that it's not a fad, so that it's actually sustainable. So we're not going 5 days a week, 1 day a week, 6 days a week, 2 days a week. I would like 3 consistently. That would be brilliant. How many people want to go and write this out this weekend? You got your step 1, your step 2. How many people actually want to go out and try this? Because I guarantee you, if you set this self up for yourself and you actually plan this list and you look at it, it is going to help figure out where you're at on your journey. And everybody's on a different journey. There's no need to compare. Everybody's doing things a bit differently, and that's fine. This is your journey with your dog. Okay? So that is how I set up my training sessions. And I do a combination of training sessions and overload sessions. So what is an overload session, right? Overload session is basically doing more than what you're doing with your dog right now. So let me just close this out here. We don't need to continue to share this. So if we think of the overload session, okay, basically our goals with overload is to tire out the muscles, okay? In order to improve in strength and body awareness and power and flexibility, we have to do more than what we're currently doing, right? So if I was taking a pen, and I know you guys have heard this one before from me, if I was doing a bunch of bicep curls with a pen, do you really think my bicep is ever going to improve in strength? Well, it's not, right? There's not enough weight, right? But if I have a 10-pound weight and I do bicep curls, yeah, I'm going to start to get tired. And that's what I want, because that's going to start breaking down the muscle. And we need that muscle breakdown in order for the body to adapt, to be stronger, to withstand the forces of that 5 or 10-pound weight or whatever weight you're using. But what's important before we do that is that I have to get the right form. If I get a 10-pound weight here and I'm doing bicep curls like this, right? Can you imagine if I was doing bicep curls like this? That would be really, really weird and terrible. Think of what's happening to my left side of my spine. It's like now I suddenly have a scoliosis as well. And I'm hiking up my traps and I'm like throwing myself into it, okay? That's uncomfortable just doing that right now. I have to actually train the exercise first. Why? Because I need to get the proper mechanics. So I have to learn to keep my shoulders back, right? And I have to keep my elbow tucked in. And I have to do a nice curl. Up with 3, down with 3. Up with 3, down with 3. Okay, I'm starting to get the form. This is cool. All right, we're gonna add a challenge. I'm gonna add my big water bottle, okay? I'm on some program right now where I need to drink one of these every single day. This is a gallon of water. I don't know how people do this. This is a bit of a struggle for me, but I'm working through it. See, we all have goals. This is my goal, is to drink this. If you can see, Right now, I'm only at 1 o'clock. Come on, this is not good. I have a ways to go because it's nearly 8 o'clock. But let's say now I've got this, okay? And now I'm actually going to do bicep curls, right? I still have to make sure, okay, my shoulder's back. I got to go up. I got to slowly come down. And I got to keep doing that, right? But I got to keep with the right form. So that's why it's so important that we go through the training first, because we can't go into circuits and we can't go into overload and we can't expect our muscles to tire if we don't have the proper form. Sarah says that water bottle is insane. Yeah, it is, Sarah. Yeah, it is. It's purple. It's keeping me hydrated, and hydration is key. I'm learning this. Boys and girls, drink your water. It's important. But that is not why we're here to talk about that. That could be a whole other conversation of the importance of water. But what I'm getting at is that, again, we have to do the training first, okay? Now, once we've trained that and it is a green light exercise, then we can move it into overload, okay? But you can still continue to work on your training approach for some of your other exercises, right? You're still going to combine your green, yellow, red, right? But the green light exercises now, guess what? They move into overload. They move into circuits. And there's different ways that you can go about circuits and overload, okay? And again, we've had to really extrapolate from human research because there's not a whole lot of dog stuff out there on this. There's just not. But, you know, muscles, tendons, and ligaments tend to work very similarly between dogs and people. So that's why we can confidently extrapolate that information and say, you know what, yeah, this is actually going to work, okay? And the thing is when we get into overload and when we get into tiring out the muscles, we actually see fatigue. For all those of you that have really high drive dogs, you're like, my dog never tires. I guarantee you, I can get your dog tired, right? We just have to watch for the signs of fatigue. And every dog's a little bit different. Some dogs are like really obvious and they're like, that's it, I'm done, I'm off. And they literally walk off and go lie down, right? They're like, I can't do this anymore. Our high drive dogs, let's be honest, they are gonna work until they drop, right? So we have to look for the subtle things. Subtle things as in position changes. They're gonna get clumsy with their feet, right? So they may sort of trip a little bit. They may not have that nice even foot placement. All of a sudden you might see them staggered. We have to look for those subtle signs because I'm telling you right now, they're not going to slap you in the face. They're just not going to do that. My dogs will work forever. None of them are quitters. They have grit. They have perseverance. They will go, go, go. But even though their mind is saying they have to go, guess what? Their body is going to eventually tell them like, hey, we can't keep going here. So those are the things that sort of you're looking for. I'm just going back through comments here just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Candace says, sounds like my personal workout. Yeah. Which, the bad form and doing it this way or the good form? Okay, Beth says, you'll be up all night with bathroom breaks. Well, if I drink the rest of that water tonight before I go to bed, yeah, I'll be in trouble for sure. So hopefully I'm not going to get through my water. I'm trying. I'm actually on that thing. I'm trying to get to like 5 o'clock every day because that is like way more water than I've ever drank in my life. So I'm, you know, again, we're trying. So again, with circuits, green light exercises, okay? And there's sort of two different ways you can do circuits. Number one is you can do sequential. And sequential means that you take, let's say we have exercise A, B, and C. I feel like maybe I should draw this. Hold on. Let me draw this since my drawing skills are just exceptional. I hope you notice sarcasm in that. Okay, we're just going to draw on here. So in sequential, you're completing exercise A times 10 reps. You're going to complete exercise B times 10 reps. And then you complete exercise C times 10 reps. Again, those are only green light exercises, right? And you should be able to do 10 reps because if it's in green light, you know that you have 10 reps off the bat, right? So that's number one. And then what you would do is you would try and go for 2 different sets. So you do 10 of A, 10 of B, 10 of C, take maybe a 30-second water break. Water is important. Then you go back and try your set number 2. And what you are looking for is signs of fatigue in the dog, right? You may get to 2 sets. You may after 2 sets be like, wow, my dog could still go forever. Okay, cool. Let's try 3 sets. If you can do 10 repetitions of each exercise and you can do 3 sets, you're going to have to make it harder. Okay, we're not getting into all that tonight about how you can make exercises harder, but if you can do 10 reps of each exercise 3 times and you're not seeing any signs of fatigue and they could go for like another 2 sets, you know you have to make that harder. Okay, you know you can. All right, so that is sequential circuits. And circuits, just to go back, right? When circuits, you're generally combining at least 3 exercises. You can go sort of 3 to 6, 3 to 7 exercises. Any more than that, it just gets super complicated, which is not easy for a lot of people. And we only need so many exercises in a circuit. So 3 is always, again, a good number to start. So then we have rotational. So you have exercise A, you have exercise B, and you have exercise C. What you're going to do is you're going to do 1 rep of A, you're going to do 1 rep of B, and then you're going to do 1 rep of C. That is considered 1 total repetition. You're going to do that 10 times. So 1 of A, 1 of B, 1 of C. No water break in between here. Now you go back, 1 of A, 1 of B, 1 of C, 1 of A, 1 of B, 1 of C. Do that 10 times. Then you can take your water break, and then you're going to go on to set number 2. Okay. And again, you're looking for signs of fatigue throughout. They should be able to get to 10 reps. Now, if your dog has only ever been used to sequential style of exercising, in terms of you've always done exercise A first, then B, then C, I guarantee you that this rotational style is going to tire your dog out more, because they have to transition between different movements a lot quicker. Now, for some dogs, this is awesome because they get so sort of excited by it, and it's not like the boring 10 of A, 10 of B, 10 of C. Some dogs need that variety. Okay, so from a mental standpoint, again, you have to sort of evaluate your dog. That's another conversation for another day. It's just evaluating, doing a baseline assessment or what your dog needs in their training session. That's a whole other story. Okay. But this rotational style circuit is always a lot harder for the dog's body. So I often see them tire out quicker. Okay. Again, you're only choosing green light exercises for this. Now, you might find as you sort of get and embark on circuits and you're just starting out, maybe you go through your list this weekend and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got these green light exercises. What do I do with them? Like how do I put this all together? What should I do with them, right? And that's fantastic. But what you might do is, instead of going in with the sort of concept of overload and tiring them out, maybe you train sort of the circuit first. Because if they've never put those exercises sort of back to back, that's a huge new challenge for the dog. Right? So to make sure that you're successful, to make sure your dog is successful, right? You start sort of training. You just take 5 or 10 minutes and say, okay, I'm gonna just put these exercises together and just see how you do. Can we maintain the same form? I did a Facebook Live in this group. It's in the guide section on my top 5 tips for circuit success. If you haven't watched that, I'm going to encourage you to go back and take a look at that, because those are 5 tips to make sure that you set yourself up for success. They are awesome tips, but I want to make sure you go back and take a look at those as well. We're not going to go through all those tonight. But that's another one that I talk about, is sort of circuit training first before we actually get into the overload. Okay. Does that make sense now? Does that give you clarity? I just want you to comment sense. Does that give you clarity between what a training session is and what an overload session is? So Bree, I hope that answered your question when you said, hey, is this how you structure your circuits? Absolutely not. The red light training approach, or the traffic light training approach, is only for training. Overload and tiring out the muscles is something completely different, only utilizing the green light exercises. Candace says sense. Erica says that. Margaret says that. Awesome, guys. Awesome. I'm glad that this is sort of making sense. And if you have any questions, again, MQI, just write that down. I'm happy to sort of go through your questions. So yeah, that's sort of the training that I wanted to go through. So here's your 3 steps. I'm giving you 3 action items. It's going to be a 4th, but 3 action items. Number 1, get your journal. Get your Excel spreadsheet, however best you want things laid out. Hey, maybe you go on Amazon this weekend and you get like magnetic boards, like whiteboards that you can stick on your wall, or maybe you just get a big whiteboard, or maybe you get a cork board, okay? And you put up like Post-it notes everywhere. Maybe you do that, okay? Whatever's going to make you see it and make you follow through with it, okay? So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is going to be, I want you to write your master list of exercises, and I want you to highlight which ones are red, which ones are yellow, which ones are green, okay? And then step number 3 for you guys is taking those greens, and I want a separate list of your green ones, because those are the ones that we can start to put into a circuit, okay? Those are your 3 sort of action items that I want you to do this weekend. Now, when it comes back to foundation, because again, with training, right, generally we're working through a lot of foundation behaviors. And who is foundations for? Foundations is for everybody, absolutely everybody. My dogs do foundations, and again, age ranges from 1 to 6. They all do foundation stuff every single week. I'm constantly sort of proofing some of them, implementing new exercises, training different things. I'm constantly still working on foundation exercises. There's so many foundation exercises, right? So that's something that I'm really sort of, I'm a stickler on. And I launched a course. How many months ago was this? This was 3 months ago. Okay. And I launched a foundation course, and it actually just wrapped up a couple weeks ago. Very well received. We had over 100 people in it. It was very well received. People loved it. It had 30 exercises. It had training videos. You got all my drawings. So picture like an exercise in through here. And, you know, I draw for like correct form or foot placement. I would literally sort of map out for people common errors and ways that sort of people muck up sometimes, whether it's the dog or whether it's us, because arguably we sometimes make a few mistakes when we do things, and that's okay. But the course was really well received. And when it ended a couple weeks ago, I said, you know what? No plans to sort of relaunch it again, likely until the fall, and we'll just sort of leave it at that and sort of move on to something else. But then I was talking to my friend Susan Garrett. So I'm her fitness coach with her puppy This right now. And she was a member in that foundation course as well. And then because she's not far from where I am, we've been able to work together every single week on the foundation exercises. And I was talking to Susan last week, and she said, would you consider like launching this course again? She's like, it's a brilliant course. She loved it. Her puppy's making great leaps and bounds in her conditioning train. And she said, would you consider doing this again? And I said, well, yeah, like maybe, absolutely, I might consider doing this again. And so she says, you know what? I'm gonna do a podcast on this. Okay, I'm gonna do a podcast on canine fitness. And so what she launched this morning is she launched a podcast on canine fitness talking about foundations. Kyla is going to put here in the comments the link to Dogs that's Susan's podcast. It's 12 minutes. It is fantastic. It is a great sort of overview of who conditioning is for, how we go about foundations. She provides a couple simple exercises. It's a great podcast. And then what we've done, if we have opened the foundation course. The course is open for enrollment, and there is a discount code and a coupon code for that. It's Susan20. And if you go to Dogs and you go to the podcast and you're sitting here going, you know what, I want to work on my foundations. I still need more work on how to properly train it, how to understand the exercises, which exercises do I need to start on, okay? This course will walk you through 30 different exercises, okay? You also get my Framework to Foundation workbook, which is my 6-step process to achieving absolute success in canine conditioning, from everything to how to evaluate your dog, to the role of the handler, to equipment, to setting your goals and your expectation, okay? Super important. So we've decided to launch this through her podcast and give people, anybody who goes over there and checks out that podcast, they get that discount. So we have the link in here for you for Dogs We also have the link to the foundation course. If you're sitting here going, you know what, guys, I want more work on foundation. I need to proof this more. You know what? I've decided to open it up and keep it open for a little bit. Okay. But make sure you put in that discount code to get your discount. Jan says here, it should be mandatory. Thanks, Jan. I really appreciate that. Jan has been a student of mine for many years now. She has taken every single course, and I was chatting with her last night actually about the foundation course, and she said, Carolyn, this is an absolute staple in everybody's fitness program. And you know what, Susan has said the same thing. I feel very strongly about this, that a lot of us tend to sort of bypass the foundations and we just sort of go straight into the sexy stuff and the inflatable stuff because it's so much cooler. Well, here's the reality is that if your dog doesn't have good form and positioning on stable equipment, why would we ever introduce sort of unstable equipment? It doesn't make sense. Why would we put in a balance challenge if they can't do it unstable, right? And it's all about being picky about that form. Anybody who's on here who's worked with me knows I'm quite picky about this. Why do we want our feet even? Why? Because we want symmetry. We want to make sure that we're working out the dog's left side and right side evenly for balance. Because if we don't do that and they're staggered and they're off, then what happens is compensation starts to happen. One side of the body starts to work a little harder than the other, and the body's not designed for that, right? 60% of a dog's weight's on the front, 40% on the hind. If those numbers are off, well, their body's not designed to withstand more force. That's where things start to break down. Shoulders, a lot of shoulders break down. Right? There's no collarbone to hang on to anything, right? Their dog's shoulder is literally only held together by muscles, tendons, and ligaments. That's it. They have no collarbone, not like us. We got a nice collarbone here. That's good support structure. And while we don't put really weight, except when we're doing push-ups, maybe, we don't really walk on our hands, right? Plus we have a collarbone. So like our shoulders are fairly well protected for the most part, except when we do silly things. But for dogs, they're way more at risk because they're already 60% front loaded, right? So if something's going on in the rear and they're offloading, then that's going to put more weight on the front. Same with if they're putting more weight on the front left, right? Well, then instead of like 30 and 30, it's like 40 and 20. Well, that's only going to go so long before it breaks down, right? So it becomes really, really critical and important to go through those foundation behaviors. Okay, so go check out Susan's podcast at Dogs That, and I want you to read. So that's like step number 4. Okay, go check out this amazing podcast. It's 12 minutes. It's only 12 minutes. Get your glass of wine, watch 12 minutes of Susan talking about something really important, foundations. And if you're sitting here going, geez, I missed out on that foundation course and I should have got in on it. Well, now is your opportunity. So hop on over there and check that out. I just want to go back here because I feel like I might have missed 2 questions. Okay. Erica says, my question is it okay to do 3 days in a row of circuits, then 4 days off versus doing circuits every other day? I know they need rest to heal. Absolutely, Erica. So you're right. They do need rest to heal. And I probably wouldn't structure it that way. I probably wouldn't do 4 straight days or 3 straight days of circuit and then 4 days off. Little unbalanced, right? I would sooner do a circuit Monday, rest day Tuesday, or just maybe some training, right? Because you can train on most days because it's not physically taxing for the dog. So you could do like a circuit on Monday, you could do a training session on Tuesday, you could maybe do a rest day Wednesday, then do a circuit on Thursday, and so on and so forth, right? I would break them up a little bit because unlike us, where I could do an upper body workout one day and then a lower body workout the next day, dogs don't really have that luxury because of how they're built. Right? So even though we can sort of influence where weight goes, either to the front end or the hind end by sort of how we position the equipment, we can't fully offload either the front or the hind end. We could never get just 100% front end. Even if we do like something like the wheelbarrow, which really silly exercise, but dogs just standing there, you pick up their back feet and you walk them forward. I don't encourage you to ever do that. I'm just giving you a crazy out there example. You still will not get 100% weight on their front because they're going to be resisting you in your hands going like, what are you doing to me? This is ridiculous. And little stabilizers are going to activate in their hind end too, just because they're just going to be a little bit unsure what you're doing. So again, we can't ever get 100%. So I'd sooner space things out, Erica, to make sure that you're not putting too much on the dog's body in those 3 days. Okay. Pat says, I'm still working on the foundation course. Yeah, absolutely, Pat. Absolutely. Holly asks, let me just expand this here. Bristol is still struggling with cavaletti. He races through them or jumps over them as compared to walking or trotting. I'm wondering if working with the ladder would help me to teach or guide him. Well, the only problem with that, Holly, great question, is that the ladder and cavalettis are very different. So if you get a trot in the ladder, that doesn't mean that's going to translate to a trot in cavalettis. What I would do is go back through that foundation course. So I break cavalettis down to literally just having them pass through cones. Then I might put 2 poles down, then 3 poles. Although we start at the height of the withers in terms of the distance between the poles, what I might do for Bristol is actually just bring them in a little bit closer, not drastically. Like let's say he's, what is he, like 16 inches at the withers, I think. Maybe go down to like 14 and a half and 15. Make sure you measure. That's a very, that's a misstep that can be really critical as well. And by focusing on just 2 poles down instead of 4 or 6 makes things a little bit more attainable. And I would be dropping treats down. Make sure they're never coming from your hands. Make sure you're dropping treats down as he's doing them initially to really help slow him down. It can also help to use the manners minder sometimes. So you can have a manners minder at one end. Or you could also put cones. So if you have your 2 poles here, you could put 2 cones here and have him sort of wrap the cone and go back over 2 poles and trot and wrap the cone in 2 poles. And I would not do this exercise with Bristol unless he was a little bit tired. Because again, you're training, right? So it's not like he has to be like fresh. Cavalettis is generally not an exercise I do with a dog fresh first thing in the morning because they are ready to go and they are wild. I save that one for then maybe when they're a little bit more tired so that they're not necessarily sprinting and racing. And then I would also implement in that session sort of a balance of sort of some calmness activity, right? So can you go lay on a cot for a minute or 2 while I'm setting things up? Okay, you're coming back, you're a little bit too excited. Okay, I just want you to go back and think for a second. Now I want you to come back and sort of going back and forth between that a little bit as well, and implementing, even it's your choice. It's your choice is a brilliant game for those dogs that just can't seem to slow down. So you can incorporate a little bit of that plus probably more treats. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so we posted the dogs that if Susan loved it, I want in. Thanks, Candace. Yes, Susan is a big fan, and I'm working with her every single week in that program, but live, because we're super, we're only 45 minutes away from each other. She's been working through that program with me, and a big endorsement. If you go watch that Dogs That podcast, you're going to see how much she loved it. So yeah, absolutely. Go check that out. We'd love to have you in the program. And with that, so it is a self-guided course, but you get monthly coaching calls. So every month, I do a live coaching session just like this, just for the students in my programs. And we go through all sorts of questions that you might have. So even though it's self-guided, there's still coaching. That's every month with me as well. Just seeing if I'm missing anything else. Elisa, is this foundation course okay for a senior dog? Yes, absolutely. This foundation course is for any puppy. Okay, it is safe for all puppies. I start all my puppies in this program at 8 weeks of age. Now, again, people are like, oh my gosh, Carolyn, you're doing this at 8 weeks of age. Yes, but we're keeping things simple. By going through my workbook and my 6 steps to conditioning success, you're going to learn how to structure that appropriately for a puppy. Perfectly safe. It's just very short sessions. What you do with an 8-week-old puppy versus what you do with a 6-month-old puppy to a 12-month-old puppy is very different, right? In terms of how long the training session is, what are your expectations of them? That workbook in that course is going to talk you through exactly how you lay it out, whether it's a puppy though, or a senior. This is great for senior dogs, great for senior dogs, because you know what? One of the biggest reasons why people put down animals is because of lack of mobility, right? And that's something that we can control. There's so many things in life, guys, that we can't control. This is something that you can. Right? Movement is medicine. My colleague, Sarah McKeegan from Nova Scotia, she has talked about this tons of time, right? She's got a practice in Nova Scotia, super successful. She's brilliant. Love this girl. Okay. And she has said this time and time again, movement is medicine. Okay. So that's something to consider with those senior dogs. We want to keep them moving. So again, like I said before, this course is for everybody, but obviously you're going to sort of structure it a little bit differently. With a senior dog, am I looking to like completely sometimes overload them and work multiple sessions? Well, no, we might take a bit of a lighter approach, but I still want them moving. And again, a lot of people have said to me, well, Carolyn, I walk my dog, I hike my dog. And you know what? That's amazing. That's awesome. That's great. But it's not targeted. It's not specific. If a dog is compensating or weaker in the hind end, those compensations just magnify because they continue. And we can't necessarily see them, right? We can't necessarily see them. So when we're doing conditioning exercises, it also helps to identify if there's something maybe a little bit off with our dog. Maybe they're not turning, maybe we're introducing cone wrapping and you know what, they're not turning well to the left. They're turning great to the right. They're nice and tight, but to the left, they're not, right? That starts giving you sort of clues into something maybe that's up with your dog that maybe you need to go book with your health professional. Right? So this is appropriate for all dogs. Sarah says, Carolyn, you have a great YouTube video for cavaleting training. Yes, for those of you that aren't in foundation course, I do have a YouTube video as well on cavaleting training. Now, I will tell you my cavaleting training in my foundation course has been tailored from that YouTube video. So the YouTube video was created, I don't know, probably a year ago now. I have changed my approach to some of my training. It's a good starting point. Absolutely. Great starting point. But we go into a little bit more detail. As with this entire course, we go into all the details you could possibly imagine. And with each of the 30 exercises, okay, we have a 5 to 10 minute specific training video that I speak and demonstrate and show a bunch of lines and arrows of things you have to be mindful of. So you get the whole dog training aspect too. Remember, there is so much dog training and canine conditioning, and the better you understand dog training, the more successful you're going to be in canine conditioning. And if you say, oh, well, I'm not a dog trainer, Carolyn. Well, guess what? You own a dog. You're a dog trainer. All of us are dog trainers, right? We may have different levels and abilities, but if you own a dog, you're a dog trainer. So the more you understand about dog training, the more successful and the better outcomes you're going to get out of your dog. Okay. Candace asks, will anyone recommend a tripod with a clicker start for an iPhone? Yeah, Kyla, can you pull maybe one off Amazon that I've recommended before? Filming your sessions, right? I'm sort of glad, Candace, you said this. Filming your sessions is another very important tool that everybody should be utilizing, because we don't sometimes recognize our natural tendencies when we do an exercise with a dog. We could be like, no, we're rewarding high. It's great. And then you look back, you're like, oh my good gosh, I'm not rewarding high. But in the moment you thought you were rewarding high. So it's really good to help look at your mechanics, but also how your dog's performing the exercise. So you get feedback on both ends there. But also sometimes the subtle signs of fatigue in some of these high drive dogs can be really hard to see. Whereas when we sort of slow things down on video, we can see them that much more. Okay. So that is the foundation course that I wasn't going to release, but now somehow Susan has convinced me, and it is released and it is out there, and it's actually blown off the charts tonight. Emails are coming through like wildfire. People are super stoked about this course. So if you want to learn more about your foundations, I encourage you, check out dogsthat.com. Check out the most recent podcast that really got released from Susan only a few hours ago. Okay, now, the other thing that I want to offer. So for those of you that are like, no, foundations are going pretty good. I have a good idea that a lot of my exercises are in green light. What can I do now? The next step is really understanding circuits. Now, I have just launched tonight, as of right now. Right now, Kyla's going to put the link in there. So again, this is separate than foundations. This is the introduction to circuit training. Okay. Now, I have released circuit courses before, so many of you have been in those circuit classes. This is totally different. This is not the same, not new circuits. They're totally new circuits, and you get way more information. So this is now, once you got your green light exercises, now what do I do? Now, you might be saying, Carolyn, I still have a bunch of yellow and red light exercises. That's okay. But if you have more than 3 green light exercises, this is the course that you transition to. Okay. And I know a lot of you on here have more than 3 green light exercises. It is not all or nothing. It's not you just do training or you just do circuits. There is a balance of all of this. Okay. So if you're sitting there and you're already starting to think of your exercises, and I'm sure some of you are already starting to write this out, and you go, hey, I've got some green light exercises here, then listen up. Okay, this introduction to circuit train is going to give you all the ins and outs of how to successfully go about circuit training. I have brand new modules that have never, ever been released to anybody. Okay, this is first access, huge modules in terms of understanding first training, then understanding overload. So I get into the science behind it, right? I got a background in science, this is what I do. So there's going to be information on science in terms of why, like, how does this work? How do muscles even build? How do they grow? I bet you want to know. I wanted to know. I learned this and I want to share it with you guys, because the more knowledge you have and the more understanding of this stuff you have, the more likely you're going to follow through with it, because you're going to really see the importance of this. Okay, so it goes the ins and outs of circuits. You got these, I think there's 3-4 brand new modules that are quite long in length, but they give you a wealth of information about how to build circuits. Okay, so it's not just about the training approach and the science behind it. It's also, how do you build a circuit? I get asked this all the time. How do I do this? What do I look for? That's all discussed in there. Okay, there is going to be 8 new circuits. And how this is different than my previous circuit courses is my previous circuit courses included anywhere between sort of 5 to 7 exercises. This is only going to have 3 exercises in each circuit, because this is your introduction to circuit training, right? I want to make sure you are successful with this. And I was finding in my previous circuit courses that people were really struggling. Too many exercises, they lacked foundation, they didn't have the background and understanding of how to put everything together, and a lot of people got sometimes discouraged, right? For some people that have been doing this stuff for years, yeah, it was great. They had variety and it was awesome the way they go. But for a lot of people, we're still in foundations and we're still learning of how to piece this together safely and with good exercises, right? So in this introduction to circuit training, it is all the exercises that you've seen in foundations. Those are the ones that we've pooled in this circuit class, okay? To give you a really good start on your circuit training, so that you don't just launch into and go, oh, I got a bunch of green light exercise, I'm just going to throw crap together and hope it all works out. No, I want to give you the skills of how to do it. Plus I give you the 8 examples, and they're live with me talking with my dog, going through them. So you get lots of extra sort of training points as we go along. Pat just said, just signed up less than 15 minutes ago. Yeah, Pat, that's awesome. Thank you so much. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. If you have questions, you know where to find me. So also you get a coaching call once a month with this. So it is self-guided, similar to the foundation course. It is self-guided. But every month, we're going to jump on a call like this. And I've actually paired the foundation and the circuit class together for the coaching call, because arguably a lot of the stuff in the foundation could always benefit people in the circuit class. And the circuit class is what foundation people are sort of going like, hey, look what's attainable. Look what's coming. We're blending everybody together. This could be a massive coaching call. It's going to be so, so much fun. And you know what? I always thought like an hour, but if we go 2 hours, great, we go 2.5 hours. I will not stop until all your questions are answered. So similar to other courses, you can ask your questions and then we will sort of put them in a pile. And then once a month we go through them. Now, these modules are very detailed. A lot of the questions and common questions that you're thinking of, I have already highlighted that for you, because this course has been, the foundation course was about 4 years in the works. This circuit course and really putting everything together has been easily a year and a half of listening to questions and answers and putting everything together for people. So most of the common questions are answered through all the modules and the circuits as well. So just another thing to consider. So again, you've got foundations and you've got circuits, okay? Foundations is where you start. You have to start in foundations. If you've gone through them, you've gone through your list, you've got a bunch of green light exercises, you are going to come on over to the crazy world of circuits. Okay. If you have no green light exercises, you can still come into circuits and have that to look forward to. I never know when I'm releasing my courses again, and all my courses are lifelong access. So if you purchase now, and there's payment plans as well, lifelong access. So if it's not working right now and you're still sort of working through foundation and saying you don't have a lot of green light exercises, no problem. This is something that you work towards. Okay. But for anybody who's on here that goes, is this course for me? If you have more than 3 exercises that are green light, this circuit course, you are going to love this circuit course. Price point for that one is $197. Okay, so it's actually lower. It's a discounted rate than what I normally do my courses at, because I just see it as such an important segue. I just find there's this huge gap out there between sort of what we do with foundations and where we go with sort of overloading and building circuits. There's a huge gap there. And so I've reduced the rate of it because I just want as many people in it as possible to learn as much as you can about this, that you're doing it safely. Okay. So those are the 2 super, super exciting offers. And I'd love for you guys to join me in it. There's lots of great testimonials. There's lots of people that have been very happy with these courses. And so just want to put them back out there to you guys so that you can do things safely, use functional exercises, safe exercises, and actually have a game plan. Okay. This is not one of those courses that you just throw out there and you just do. I'm giving you all the tools in your toolbox, okay, to design your own circuits, so that I don't have to hold your hand the whole time. You can actually start to develop this. And guys, it's not rocket science, but until somebody walks you through those step-to-step levels, right, it can be really daunting and overwhelming about how to do it. And when we think about trying to improve our balance and our body awareness and our strength and our power, we have to start working to overload. We have to do that. But how do we do that? That is what this course is for. It's going to teach you those concepts so that you can get results faster. You can be more efficient in your conditioning. You can learn more about dog training. Again, you are all dog trainers. You have a dog. Well, maybe you're on here and you don't have a dog. If you don't have a dog, you should get a dog. Okay. But I think everybody on here has a dog. Okay. So you're all dog trainers. The more you understand about dog training, the better. Okay. Are there any questions here? So Rebecca Sharp says these courses are a game changer. Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca is one of my students in my Path to Success Elite Coaching Program. And she's been through many of my programs, and she's got gorgeous Briards, gorgeous Briards. Bree says, absolutely love the foundation course. It's the course I always wanted for canine conditioning, but never had until now. Bam, bam, there you go, right? So lots of people have seen this, okay? And if you have any questions and maybe you're not comfortable asking them on here, just send me a message on Facebook, okay? So those are my offers for tonight. You all have action items, okay? I want you to comment action if you're actually going to take action. I want you to say it, because the more times we say these things, yes, I'm going to take action. Yes, I'm going to make my list. Yes, I'm going to write out my schedule. Yes, I'm going to get a course that is going to help me understand how to do this, because doing it on my own is going to be slower, not nearly as time efficient, and I'm not going to get the results I want. This is why we work with coaches. This is why we choose programs that are going to help get us towards our goals. So I want you to comment action. If you've gone on here tonight and you're like, no, I'm ready to take some action on this. I'm ready to take things to the next level so I have better understanding. And then I'm setting myself up for success. And if we go back to those questions that people were asking me, not enough time to commit to training. We've talked about it takes 5 minutes. It takes having a plan. takes knowing what to work on. If you don't know what to work on, how do you structure a plan, right? Multiple dogs. Well, the more we're organized, the more we set things up, the more likely we can accommodate more dogs. And again, you're going to start slow and work your way up. Not enough time, not sure how to keep everything organized. I've given you an awesome strategy today, a traffic light training approach of how to organize yourself. It's simple. You just have to put in the time, right? I bet you if you could do this in half an hour of your weekend. It's a long weekend for the Canadians, so you have Monday off. Well, some people might have to work, but not everybody. There was confusion around training and overload. I hope tonight that we have clarified that, right? Training, learning new skill, proof new skill, trying to challenge. Overload, actually tiring out the muscles and looking for signs of fatigue, right? How do I get started in canine conditioning? You join foundations, okay? You join foundations, and then from there, you look at also getting into that circuit class, okay? I've tried to make them as reasonably price point as possible. Susan has generously given this discount, which is amazing, amazing. I love it, okay? So I think we've gone through the objections that we talked about an hour and a half ago, and I'm hoping that I provided some solutions for you guys tonight. Just want to check and make sure I'm not missing any questions here. Oh my gosh, everybody's commenting action. I love this. I love this. Katie Manning saying, where's the best place to find info on how many train sessions versus overload sessions versus rest days to aim for per week, especially when balanced with other training classes and trials? Katie, that is all foundation stuff. That is in my framework to foundation success workbook, working through all those things. There's a lot of that could be a live for each section, to be honest with you. So that's all in my foundation course. Okay, just seeing if there's anything else. Link to Susan's podcast you spoke of. Yeah, Kyla, can you repost the link to Susan's podcast just in case it got lost in too many comments? You guys are commenting like crazy. I love it. Absolutely love it. So I hope everybody has a fabulous weekend. I hope you give a little bit of time to think about this. The circuit class does expire on Tuesday, so it is closing on Thursday. And again, I don't plan, once this is sort of wrapped up, I don't plan to open any further courses for the summer. I am focusing sort of summertime on my coaching program and then doing these coaching calls with you guys in the foundation class and the circuit class. There likely won't be anything new coming from the summer. But I really want you to think about it. I know some people on here, we're just getting back to getting open and coming out of lockdown. I mean, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. And already the buzz, can't wait to trial, can't wait to go to a show, can't wait to do all this stuff. Okay, but I want you to think about how well conditioned are your dogs right now, right? What have you been doing to set them up for success for that? Because I'm telling you, I'm going to see injury rates go through the roof. That's what I'm going to see, because there's lots of people that haven't been working on their conditioning and they're just going to assume their dog's in good shape and they're going to get back and away they go. It's like training, right? Once training classes open up and maybe our dogs haven't seen any train for 6, 7, 8 weeks, right? Reversal of those positive gains goes away within 3 weeks, right? So I want you all really to think about as things start to open up, okay? Especially for us here in Canada, as things start to open up with training sessions and training classes back. And I know we're all getting pretty excited about going back to trialing. I know I am. I haven't trialed since December 2019. That is crazy. I am looking to get back. But until my dogs have 2 solid months of training where they're running courses and running sequences, there's no way we're going back to trials, because you know what's going to happen? There's an injury that's going to happen. I've been focusing on my conditioning, right? This entire time during COVID, they're getting conditioned 3-4 times a week. That has not lapsed at all, right? Because I want to make sure they are race ready, okay? And understanding the foundations, the importance of that, understanding how to put together a workout to actually get what you're looking for, that is absolutely critical. If you don't know how to put this together, how are you going to reap the benefits? And if you have another coach that you're working with, another program, fabulous. That's great, guys, right? There's lots of stuff out there. But I go through a lot more detail into the dog training and science behind it, because that's something that's really, really important to me. Because the more you understand about dog training, the easier teaching the canine conditioning goes. And the easier that goes to teach, the more success you get. The more success you get, the more likely you're going to do it. The more likely you're going to do it, the more likely you're getting benefits. So it is a chain reaction, okay? And speak to anybody who's been through my programs. That is a really big thing that I focus on, okay? Julie says, is there a discount for intro to circuit? I've already discounted it, Julie. It's $197. Normally this would have been $297. So it is already discounted already. So there's not a further discount to it. It is already discounted at this point. Okay, so we've kept you on for an hour and a half. Thank you, everybody, for staying on. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I hope all of you have a fabulous, for my Canadians, I hope you all have a fabulous long weekend. And for everybody else, I'm really hoping to see you in the courses. And links are all in the comments here, and they will be posted over the next couple of days as well. So take care, everybody. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll chat with everybody soon. Take care.